Hello, Bill Marlowe here at Bill's History and Wargame World, and we're at Walt's house, and we're getting ready to play
Sharps practice.
Sharps Practice. And what scale are we using today, Mr. Walt?
The one true scale, 54 millimeter.
There you go.
Wow. And anything else you'd like to say before we discuss it with Kevin?
Nope. I think we're ready to game.
All right. And this table, like all tables at Walt's house, is incredible. Everything from his terrain to his maps. And we're going to go over to Kevin. Kevin, what do you think will happen today?
Well, one of these teams will be victorious. It's a classic situation, though, in many ways. It's a superior British force in numbers against a French force with better leadership. So we'll see which is more important.
You and Walt are the British today, correct?
Well, but that's, we may overcome that.
And you're using Sharps Practice. I know we got the rule book.
We're using Sharp Practice. There's no S.
No S. And my 3D printed Melisse that Josh Warliff printed for me, and Jim painted for me. They're in this battle. And we're going over to Mr. Mike. What do you think? You're French with me today. What do you think is going to happen?
Lots of carnage, glory,
Different game.
lots of dead figures. I will probably be on the losing side because that's how these kind of games work for me.
All right. Well, we'll do a middle video and a conclusion video. So I'm just scanning this beautiful table. And then next Saturday, the team here is going to Braddock's Battlefield Center, French and Indian War site of the Battle of Monongahela. And as you can see, we are actually going to be walking the grounds of this actual painting. And the guys there at Braddock's Battlefield Center, Matt and Sean, are going to give us a tour. And, of course, Goober, the traveling bear, will be there also. So, stay tuned for more of our video, and thank you.
Captain Crenshaw has learned that the French are sending out a foraging party who they know where they're going. They're going to John Quick's cabin because they heard there was foodstuffs there. So they set a trap, and the French have walked right into it. He has 2 companies of British regulars, along with two companies of militia that have rallied to the call. And there are also a unit of provincials that are kind of a little slow getting to the battlefield. They haven't arrived yet. And then there's also 2 Rogers Rangers companies that have showed up to help out in the scout. One of the colonial groups is led by Molly Bitcher, and she is supported with her sister, Sally Two Toes. It's because the Indians chopped off what remained.
It's Betty Bum.
And we've also got Beer Belly John there with his keg, so we're all ready to repulse the French assault. And then behind the cabin, the Rangers are trying to work around the flank of the French. So you see the 2 companies there coming around. The French. We have 2 companies led by Renoir the dog, and he has 2 French regular units along with some French Marines. They're coming across the field unsuspecting, figuring it's just going to be a cakewalk. And then in the woods to their left, which we'll show you in a second, are his Indian allies along with some Courtois and some Canadian milice. The milice are run by Lieutenant Molyneux. We'll show you those now. So there are the Courtois. They are coming on the field, and their job is to snipe and keep the British out of harm's reach as far as being able to bother the French militia. Then next to them you have, I don't know which one of these is supposed to be you, Bill. This guy back here pointing, saying you move up and you die. So there's, in fact, he doesn't have Bill's beer belly. That's the problem. It's not an accurate historical representation. But anyways, that is Lieutenant Molyneux. And then next to him is Chief Magua. And he is in charge of, this is Magua right here. He is in charge of a tribe of 12 Indians. And if they get in close to any of the British colonials, it'll be bad because they can really fight and they're hard to kill. It's hard to destroy that unit because it's such a large unit, just 12 figures. So this is just the end of turn 12. Everybody showed up to the party except for George Washington and his Virginia provincials. They're the only ones that are kind of skulking. So,
All right, well, we finished turn 1. Mike, take it away. What's going on the table?
Well, so far, best that the French have been able to tell, there's been some troops, traders coming out from behind the woods. They've managed to do some shooting, and they've did a little bit of shock. They didn't hit anybody, didn't hurt anybody, but we know they're there. They've now got emptied muskets. We've got some other colonial type troops that have come out of the woods, and they're forming up as normal militia does, waiting to be shot at, and then they flee. The regulars, British regulars, are still in the woods. They're trying to figure out what's going on and whether or not they want to stay. The French, the heroes of the day, they managed to step out a little bit. Their allies are being a little cautious because they're hearing some shooting way off to their right, but they've got some troops that are actually able to see some British regulars far away, but they're not close enough to shoot at yet.
All right. Well, this table looks phenomenal in 54 millimeter scale. And I'm going to swing over to Kevin. Kevin, you're on the British side. How are things shaping up for you?
Well, slowly. My guys are not enthusiastic in moving towards the French. We'll
Yeah,
put it that
I
way.
noticed. What did your militia roll for movement?
They rolled a grand total of 2 inches, and they're wheeling in formation, so they didn't go anywhere really. Just the right wing advanced 2 inches.
All right. And it's so neat. We're playing this French-Indian War game, and Walt has all this great French-Indian War art. And in a few days, a week from today, we will actually be at Braddock's battlefield of the Battle of Monongahela. So it's really getting us in the mood for our road trip for next week. And as always, Bill's History and War Game World, one day we're doing miniatures, and the next day we could be at a historic battlefield. And we are just getting a little bit of our turn 3, maybe, turn 4. And my Native Americans are moving in, and my French milice. The British line here and militia looks quite stunning in 54 millimeter scale.
all right, so here we are. I think this is the end of turn 4. The French have come into the field. They are exchanging shots with the British colonials between the cabin and the field. In the meantime, the valiant French Canadians, the skirmishers, are moving up into the open. They've taken several shots at George Washington's boys in blue. The real big advantage was, or big plus was when the Indian tribal unit moved up into the field, fired at the British line and killed 2 British and did some shock to the British regulars. The colonials have done some damage. You can see the Canadians in the front there have got 3 guys left out of 7. So the one skirmisher unit's getting to be, they're going to probably go away here soon. And then the French have taken at least 1 loss per each of their companies. So it is wearing down.
Wow.
Now, you're not catching the edge of the, Rogers Rangers have gotten into the woods. The one unit's taken some damage. It's down, what's it down to, 4 units or 4 figures and a leader. So the French have done some damage to them. The other group has finally come around and is working its way to help shooting against the French that are in the field. So.
Moving in reverse, it does not slow you down.
And here we
in
are,
any
just
way.
You're
taking
still in
a
the crud.
10 seconds worth of the game.
Yeah, I am, that's why.
Walt's moving up.
I
We
didn't
have
want to
a-
turn my back to you because if you shot me in the back, it would do double shock, and that would just be.
Right.
We had a unfortunate
second action.
event happened.
So, yeah,
and
I
we have a lot of
backed up
smoke on the
facing me,
table.
So we're slowly backing up.
And the French line is holding under Mike's command.
Next chip.
And we're pulling the next chip. And Kevin is getting
The Tiffin!
the Tiffin. All right. Well, we'll be
That's
coming
it?
back to more exciting adventures.
Oh, you know, I'm
Good.
sorry.
A
A
break
broken
from the
group
action
retreat.
just to
Thanks
let
so
you
much.
know that George Washington is hightailing it over the hills, having been defeated in personal hand-to-hand combat.
Over the hills and far away. It is a broken group.
Amazing, amazing. One lone coup de bras has chased George Washington off the table.
Who is this fella?
That is a coup de bras leader.
Coup de grace. Okay. Well, he's been coup de grace for sure. He led a unit into self-immolation, but they did break George Washington's Continental Militia. But he then foolishly went on by himself, believing himself invincible, no doubt. And the British regulars showed him differently. They killed him.
Walt's Grenadiers, I guess, used him as a pincushion.
Very much so. Very much so.
Well done, Walt. Well done.
That's all right.
All right. Well, Kevin, what happened at the end of our game?
A miraculous British victory. Rogers Rangers came up and blasted away at a French unit that they'd been shooting at all day with little effect. But this time they killed the commander, which routed the unit, which caused drastic morale loss on the part of the French army, and won the day.
All right. I'm going to swoop down and check on the table. We're going to pause the camera here. And why is your hair like flowing like Flavio?
It always does that.
Yeah. Here we go.
So you want to point out where George died?
Here is
We didn't die, but his unit routed.
George Washington, probably replicating his French and Indian War performance, was routed from the field in charge of his colonial militia. The British got roughly handled over here, not by the French, but by the Canadians and the Native Americans, who gave them fits. We did manage to finally beat them with our whole army versus them, basically. Over on the far flank, Rogers Rangers one of the units was very roughly handled, but they're both still there, and they did manage to inflict the casualties that put us over the top.
And what's here? I have the camera pointed down.
That is the level 3 French commander-in-chief, who was first wounded and then killed by the Rangers. One of the vastly contributing factors to our win in the end.
Very good. And I'm going to pause the camera. We're going to ask Walt about the figures used in this game. All right. Well, I'm going to run through all the figures. Walt is he's going to tell you what we used for this 54 millimeter game. Walt, take it away.
Not a problem. So the figures that are the nicest plastic figures I've ever dealt with to this point are the ones by Armies in Plastic, because they were able to get the Rogers Rangers, the French line, and the Indian line that John Jenkins designed for the medals. And they are just they're exquisite sculpts. They just are. They were working on trying to get the British, but that all fell through, unfortunately. I'm not saying Armies in Plastic are the best figures on the market. It's just these 3 sets are really awesome. In fact, not only are they awesome, they're extremely affordable. Now, if you come down to here, these are not available from Armies in Plastic, but what these are the bodies off the French regulars. The heads were chopped off, and then these are French Zouave heads that were taken off of Armies in Plastic's Civil War Zouaves to give it that French floppy hat look. So, by far the best figures out there in plastic. Then next we have Josh's 3D models that he made for Bill. For the price, extremely reasonable, extremely well sculpted. Then next we have some Barzo figures. We have their British, these guys are in blue, are basically just British regulars painted as provincials. They also make the British Grenadiers. These unfortunately are American Rev. They don't make the ones for Braddock's battle, but these are close enough. And then they've got a whole series of different settlers and all that you can buy in other kits. Like they made a Daniel Boone, they made Lewis and Clark. Of course, then they made the Lexington and Concord set. And the great thing is that even though Barzo is out of production, with LOD coming online, you'll see more and more of their figures being reproduced and put out on the marketplace again. So that's it for the figures we use and how we got a hold of them.
All right, and Wargaming in 54 is so much fun at times. It's sort of different. And I'm going to pause the camera for a special ending of our French Indian War Day. Hello, Bill Molyneux here, and we had a wonderful 54 millimeter game at Walt's house, and we had such a great time. What I want to say now is next week this group is going to be driving to the Battle of Monongahela near Pittsburgh. We're going to the Braddock's Battlefield History Center. Goober the Traveling Bear will be with us. We're going to make a video and still shot pictures. We're going to be getting a tour from either Matt or Sean, the director there at the site. We're going to get a specialized tour of the museum. And I hope next week, probably Sunday, I'll have the video done. And you can see what they're doing at the Braddock Battlefield Center to enhance everyone's knowledge of the French Indian War. And also that whole area and the Battle of Monongahela. And if you don't know, the Battle of Monongahela was a British disaster. The French and Native Americans defeated them, and George Washington pretty much ended up being in command. So stay tuned next week, March 4th, and probably it'll be March 5th that the video will be loaded. Thank you everyone who watches my channel. Stay safe, be kind, be courteous. Thank you.